Anyways, we're here to introduce our panel. They will be talking on the topic of storytelling. So we're gonna pass the mic down. They're gonna make an introduction about themselves, and we will fix the microphone. So let's start here.
Derek Brown, Derek Brown with DOC and Sports Foundation, Kentwood, Louisiana.
Hi, Joyce Johnson with 1876 Athletic Foundation, supporting Purdue A&M University.
Narcidi Ruiz, CEO of the Virtual Media Agency.
My name's Donnie Henry. I'm known as the Raconteur of Art, and I'm the artist of this piece. And the other piece is the big wave piece.
Okay.
Alrighty. So these are our panelists. And hang on, there is something going on over here.
Is that one on?
Let me see, that one might be better.
Looks like they fixed that one.
Or is it on? Let me test.
Hello, hello.
Yeah.
Oh, hang on, let me put this.
Don't have it close together. Don't have it close together. Is it your phone? Is it your phone? I said it's your phone. Okay.
Let me take what's on.
I'm not sure what it is.
That might be the phone. Yeah. So this was off. That's off.
Try. I think the paper was going to use it. Looks like they taped it up. That one looks like DLC, I think.
All right, let's try now. Sorry for the technical difficulties. We have our champion here. He's the technical guru. Give him a round of applause. All right, everybody. So the moment you've all been waiting for. Our first question to these panelists. No, they have been prepared, but we're not going to ask all the questions they've been prepared for. So this is going to be very exciting. Serious conversations. Okay, real quick. Question number one. What is the meaning of the term to you? The term being storytelling.
For me, it's just telling your story in real time.
The meaning of storytelling to me is to be intentional and sharing your vision with someone. I always say you have three parts of storytelling. You need to inform, educate, and engage your audience about what it is you're wanting to accomplish.
After that, okay. Storytelling for me kind of means when someone watches what I do, they can kind of relate to it or they can kind of find some common ground. So that means I told the story right if someone can kind of connect with it as well.
If y'all have never heard the term raconteur, have you ever heard of that term before? A lot of younger folks probably have it, including myself, up until I started becoming artistic. It's a person who likes to spin tales, usually an entrepreneur, very idealistic, kind of what you're seeing here today through art and film. Storytelling to me is the difference between showing everyone my ticket stubs one at a time after drinking some booze during the evening and then rolling their eyes going, uh-oh, the tickets are coming out, as opposed to putting it on a piece of art. So that I built that piece of art with the tickets, and now people say, what is that? So the value of storytelling doesn't have to be with words, it can be with art. So my pieces I consider storyboards. So the question fits me really ideally. So you can tell the story without words, and art is, and with film without words. You can just have people doing their thing and telling a beautiful story or an unfortunate story without words.
All right, everybody, amazing answers from our panelists. Give them a round of applause, please. All righty. Question number two. What makes a good story, and is an interesting story always a good story?
I would just say, just pretty much how you describe, put your energy, your effort into your paintings or anything like that. If you're doing something like creating positivity or something that's energetic, that or emotional, that people can connect with, I feel like that always helps with the story.
My answer is going to be about the same, right? So it's that connectivity point when you're sharing that story. When I say inform, educate, and engage, you're informing them about what it is. Then you're giving them a little education about it, some stats, some numbers, what have you. And then the engagement piece is when they really are connecting, right? And if we can add a call to action in there saying, go donate. Y'all donated today, right? So I think that creates the heartfeltness and being able to have someone, you share your story and then they walk away feeling connected. It's a great story, always inspirational. Is that what you said? I don't think it has to be, right? You know, there's some bad stories out there that need to be told, so they're not going to inspire us. They may inspire us, they may tick us off and make us go do something about it. I don't think that it always has to be inspirational to be a good story.
To piggyback off of that, I don't think it has to be interesting or any kind of inspirational aspect to it. I think that what makes a good film is if it moves you. So if it moves you in a bad way, in a good way, whatever it is, it's going to make you do something afterwards. So we want you to feel some kind of way when we're making some kind of storytelling. So that's what matters to me. It doesn't have to be inspirational or something interesting. We can make it interesting with how we storytell it.
I think the world is based on storytelling. I mean, you look at the Bible, you look at all historical events. I mean, I know people question the Bible's validity. People question the truth on everything, and whether it is a historical book or if it's biblical or to that point. So storytelling keeps us alive, whether it inspires you at that moment. It might not be your story to become inspired from, but stories won't inspire if they're not told. You know, so are they good or bad? I think that's decision of the listener.
Alrighty, round of applause for those answers. Good job, panelists. So, now that you guys told us a little bit more about stories, I'd like to hear what you think a good story would be that people don't really tell about themselves.
Former NFL player, I played with the Raiders, Saints, and Colts. Also played in the CFL in Canada for a few years with Edmonton and Calgary. Came back as a college coach at Langston University. Also, I then went into medical sales. So I was told medical sales equipment and watching people get their knees cut open. Being able to, articulate to the doctor how to use devices. Then from there, pretty much moved into kind of what I'm doing now. Always is helping kids and creating my own nonprofit.
Well, I'm going to speak from the athletic foundation point of the story that people don't tell, right? They don't tell about the struggle of the athlete, right? So who watched the Olympics? It's all great. Y'all got all excited about the Olympics, right? So who sat there and thought, wow, they're all making all that money, earning all that money, right? What do you, when you think NIL? Oh, all these athletes, they're wonderful, they're earning all this money, and that's not the case. You still have a lot of athletes that they go from being the big guy on campus in high school to college where they're now the little fish, right? And sometimes they don't know how to communicate that they're hungry. Sometimes they don't know how to communicate that they're having some emotional challenges, that they're missing home, right? And so there's so much, the reason that we're telling this story with No Script Film today on the Hill is that there's so many layers to athletes, and because they're human. And we're such fans of them all the time that a lot of times we miss the human aspect. And they did a great job sharing that in the Olympics this year and highlighting those things. But that's the story that we don't tell. So we're here to tell that story.
The story we're telling right now that not a lot of people talk about is mental health awareness. I know that it's something that we say, right? We have a mental, like I'm depressed, I have anxiety, but do we seek help? Probably not. And we took it a step further and we're talking about lack of access in foreign race families. So just the trauma that they had to come migrate over and the situations that a lot of people don't talk about and how they got here and kind of the struggles they had to go through. So basically trying to open those doors and break that cycle and allow people to just talk about their feelings and talk about what's going on in their mind. You may not want to talk about it because you feel like your family, dealt with so much to get here, but you have your own struggles you have to deal with too, and they matter as well. So mental health awareness is something that people should definitely start paying attention to.
Would you repeat the question, please? All these have been wonderful answers. I just want to make sure I'm on line with what's the untold story? Yeah, and I really think everyone kind of hit on that. You see people on TV and they're automatically famous, and then people get jealous because they're automatically wealthy, but people totally fail to understand the hell they probably went to get there. It's how much you put into it to what you get out of it. Being an artist is not easy. I mean, you can ask in a filmmaker, it's not a breezy situation. So when you see someone become successful at what they've given a lot of their life in, there's an incredible path and journey to get to that point. So I think that's what creatives appreciate about each other. First and foremost, the ones who aren't creative is what they need to learn is maybe that backstory. So it brings me back to why stories are important to tell. So.
I just want to add one more thing to that, because a young lady asked to interview me on the platform, and so what I told her, we talked about reel to real, the REEL to the REAL, right? Stop letting the REEL influence your life and measure your life and well-being for it, right? Because we all know that you didn't work 10 years of your life and all of a sudden became famous, right? And so maybe we should share some of those stories openly and honestly about the struggles and things that we have as we're creating ourselves and the best of who we are, so that we can keep everyone focused on the REAL.
Amazing answers. Okay, so would you guys like to tell us a little bit more about your personal experience developing your stories? Like, how did you become a storyteller?
This story actually was not told by me, the story that we're doing here today, right? It was told by some students at Purdue A&M University and recent graduates from Purdue A&M University. I am the president of 1876 Athletic Foundation, and we sponsored, underwrote that film because we felt that story was important to tell about these athletes, like I said, about their journey and what it took for them and their families to get there. Some of these players start playing a sport when they're like 5, 6 years old, right? And this just has been their life, right? And now they're transitioning into college. So that, I always share, one story that I do share is that only 2% of all athletes, 2% are gonna play at a higher level, at a professional level, whether it's football, rugby, whatever it is, right? We have a responsibility to ensure that the 98% are whole people, that they're able to have professional life, that they are well-rounded, that they're emotionally stable, that they're compassionate people, and that they can move forward in this world as such. When you look at the CEOs of the Fortune 500 companies, 95% of CEOs of Fortune 500 companies played a sport. And so it's important that we take care of them.
After that? Okay. Question again? Question? Okay, how did I become a storyteller? That actually came luck of the draw, actually. I started a company doing social media management, and I fell in love with the creating side more. We started working with businesses and kind of sharing their stories. So again, telling other people's stories, making sure people understand where the beginning is coming from and how that brand is kind of growing. We like to follow entrepreneurs and share their progress and things like that. So when this film festival came about, we wanted to do something that was more of a passion piece that was happening in real life, not only in my life, not only in my co-partner's life, but in every person that we talk with. And so mental health was something that was very common to us that we lacked in our own homes. Not saying that it was a terrible life, but it wasn't just like, let's go to therapy, let's do this, let's find help. And so we had to endure a lot of things that our parents had to go through, and I had to, like, as soon as I got older, I realized my parents went through a lot to get here, and that kind of expresses who they are today. And so if I'm able to understand that, I'm able to understand myself, and I can finally seek help because I no longer want to hold on to their trauma for them. So it was just important, and what we're talking about here today is not my story. It's actually the story of two families here in Houston. So we let them kind of tell their own story, and you guys get to see their journey. So I hope you can see the film because it's a very impactful one, and they actually got to break some cycles while we were doing the doc.
And that's playing after our panel discussion, by the way. I'll be doing it. So my story is probably very common. 2016, my mother had been struggling with Alzheimer's for several years, and I was her caretaker. It was very difficult for everyone who had known and loved my mother, and as you can imagine. But I'm the oldest of my two brothers. So that was my duty. The oldest is responsible for their parents, by the way, filling them.
Yeah, right.
So, but no, she always told me that I was her Walt Whitman. If you don't know who Walt Whitman is, he's a very famous guy, and that's a very big compliment. And so when I turned 50, I decided to quit the corporate world and start making art. And I built all these pieces in my garage. It was like a lightning bolt went through me. I was kind of borderline insane. I mean, you see how big these pieces are? I mean, I was like, wow, I built a big piece. How do I move it? So, but those that didn't matter to me. I was just putting it out there, and I think putting it out there, embracing the out there's was something that I like to say. And I think there's a lot of folks here that I've met today that are right in line with that. So I lost my mom, and it was very difficult. So I turned a really unfortunate thing into a beautiful thing, and her spirit flows through my energy still today. Maybe not as intense as it once was, but there's things that happen that are unexplainable that come through the whole experience. So that's what my story is. So thanks for letting me tell that.
All right, so now that we hear a little bit about your stories, we'd like to know how the audience can better prepare to understand and listen to a story. So if you guys have any advice of how to become a story listener, please feel free to share.
Let's start on that.
Something that I've had to learn to do is just listen and be inquisitive and ask questions, and intent, attention, and all that stuff will actually embellish a storyteller. It'll trigger thoughts and memories that maybe they want to make sure they get out in the story. So just involvement, engaging, not just sitting there, Now I get it if the story's bad, sometimes you have to do that. But if it's a good story, you can make it better by asking questions.
I think what also on top of that, because that's super important, it's also being open. So we all live different lives. We all have different perspectives. So what you're watching is just a perspective of somebody, right? It could have multiple perspectives. So just being open to maybe watching it once and having one perspective, and then watching it again and being a different person as a different eye. So not from just the parents' view, from the kids' view, from the uncle's view. Like I don't know. There's multiple perspectives. So just being open to understanding that there's not just one understanding to that story. There's probably different angles that you can relate to.
Yeah, like she said, it's different angles, just being open-minded and just okay. No, just being open-minded about everybody else's views, and it's just kind of like she was talking about, like the Bible. Like if somebody saw somebody turning the salt that way, somebody saw it different way. They told that story, so that's what I was.
And I'll just say, lead with compassion. Like so, being open to be in a room and considerate and open to just being respectful and compassionate about what someone else is experiencing.
All right, round of applause. Amazing answers. Now, you guys talked about viewpoints. So I have a question. How do you determine what viewpoint you're going to share your story from? And, let's say you have a general audience. How would you go about that? Let's start over there.
Kind of tricky. I've been in sales most of my life, and one of the most important things about doing business with somebody is reading the room. Like when you walk into someone's office, whether it's an office building or house, first thing I do is I can look around and see maybe what they're involved in, what their kids look like. You can tell a lot about a person within the first 10 seconds of being in a room. So know your audience. Obviously, you don't need to start talking about something that's completely not even close to what the vibe is. Reading the room is extremely important to be able to talk to people in general. So don't tell a story that's going to be completely, you know, in the wrong genre, because you'll lose their attention very quickly. You know, I think every profession is guilty of doing that. So yeah, I think reading the room and maybe knowing your audience a little bit. And if that requires doing some homework, we have all the information at our fingertips on these things right here. You can do it in your car before you walk into a building. So that's my 2 cents.
I think while we were creating this film, it was important for us to kind of do just more than one perspective. So I think that we focus on actually creating multiple perspectives, so at least everybody can understand what's going on. For instance, like our film is in English and in Spanish, but if you're listening to it in English, you're going to get subtitles that are in Spanish, so everybody is involved. So just making sure that not only one person sees that perspective, there's multiple perspectives that can be caught. That's what we try to do in our film.
Love that you're in sales. I had a sales career. I'm writing books on sales. So I agree with that. You know your audience and read the room. But also just keep it simple, right? Sometimes we go too deep on things, right? And we start using big words and medical terminologies and things that our viewers have no idea about, right? Keep it as simple as possible for me.
All righty, round of applause, everybody. Very simple. All right. So, when you guys were creating your pieces, how do you want to be seen, you know, as a person that made the pieces versus just somebody telling a story?
Well, I would think we all want a legacy of positivity, and what that is, it doesn't have to always be artistic, right? I mean, character and all the things that people appreciate. You know, artists can get sideways with their interpretations. If you've ever seen Goya, he was really wild, man. He was insane, but he put it in his art. It's kind of creepy, right? So he goes away as the creepy artist guy, the Spanish creepy artist. I don't want to be a creepy artist. I want to give light and color and inspiration and what have you. And I mean, I think that's really the way you go out is the way you know, it's the dash you lived, right, between your birth and your death. I mean, as an artist, you know, I would hope that I go away knowing that I was passionate and persistent and never quit.
How do I want to be perceived as a filmmaker? Okay. Well, our agency is an iPhone media agency, so we want to be seen as people who are breaking boundaries and kind of doing things that can give more access to people who want to be in the film industry, right? So ideally, we want to be someone who is just like out of the norm, breaking the boundaries, but also kind of just is there for the people, you know? So iPhone Media is simply something that you can do yourself and pick up. So if we can teach others to also enjoy filmmaking while, you know, not having all the accessories, then that's what we want to be known as.
So again, I was not the creator of this film. We were the underwriters of the film, 1876 Athletic Foundation. And so when we thought about why we wanted to support it, it was to share the story of the athletes, share the story of our college program and university, share the story of HBCUs, share the story of what the needs really were, share the stories of the families. But again, you go back to the athlete, no matter where they are, you go back to the Olympics, there are people too, right? And we wanted to remove the lenses of the fan and have them have some compassion and connectivity to the athlete themselves.
So I am not into like a filmmaker or anything. I just do art. So I just basically, you know, just tell my story through my art. You know, it's happiness, you know, struggles, whatever it is. That's what it is.
All right, round of applause, everybody. So we have time for one more question, but instead of a question, we're going to leave it for open discussion where the panelists can say or, you know, provide some answers or whatever they want to say about this topic. So we'll start from the end over there and work our way back.
That's the topic.
There is no topic, whatever you guys want to talk about.
What do y'all think?
What what are y'all getting out of this? I'm just curious. I don't do a lot of shows like this. I do enjoy doing. They're great because I meet so many wonderful people. You know, being an artist takes a lot of effort, a lot of time and effort. You know, if you're paying your bills doing art and film, man, more power to you. But most of the people I've met, they do more than just art and film. They're doing, so that's a hustle. So my question to the audience would be, what have y'all gotten out of this event? Because this is the first time that Uplift has done this. Am I correct? I was a late incoming artist. They asked me last week to join, which I'm very humbled by the experience. So what are y'all getting out of this? You know, you're giving me some attention. What do you think? What do you think you're getting out of this whole event? Yes.
Insight.
Okay. Insight as to what?
Well, from the story that we're gonna watch. We haven't watched the film yet.
Okay.
But whatever we do, we're gonna get insight.
Okay.
On the topic.
Well, that's good. I think that's a good reason to be here. So that you asked me.
You had something, ma'am,
Yeah,
right?
no, for me, it's when I look at an art piece or even a short film, I'm always, my biggest question in my head is, what was your thought process behind it or the why,
Yeah.
as to why it was created? And for me, when I saw your gigantic, beautiful piece, I'm like, what was the drive behind it? And listening to you speak about it, it's very, it's informational and it answers my question. So that alone is very valuable to me.
Good. Appreciate that. That's very cool.
Any advice about storytelling you'd like to get?
Advice about storytelling. Don't be afraid. Honestly, again, we're an iPhone media agency and we're in a film festival. Like, we never would have thought that. So don't be afraid. Whatever you have in your hand right now, you can make art, you can tell a story, you can do exactly what you want to do. So it's just your perspective. Again, we're talking about perspective here. So just understanding that whatever you want to say, it's within you already. You can literally do it right now.
For me, I would say understand the business of art, right? So I have a young cousin who wanted to play the classical oboe. I bought it for him, so, and then he went off to college, like, oh, I want to major in music. And I said, okay, well, we're going to minor in business, right? I think this film festival is the business of your art. If you leave here and you haven't connected to someone, you haven't gotten their phone number, email, you haven't gotten them to make a donation to your cause, you need to run out right now and do that if you're an artist, whether it's film, what have you. Understand the business of your art.
So, anyone have a question for me?
Well, I have a question. I think it's incredible that you went and played sports on that level because of what she's mentioning, how difficult it is. And, you know, that is a major, that's amount of success that, like she said, most people don't.
2%.
So, let's give it a round of applause. You know, and to your defense, you know, you probably weren't prepared to get up on a panel and speak today. That's okay. But honestly, for you to go into art is you're in a brutal, masculine sport, and then you go into this artsy, you know, and you know what I mean.
Right,
It doesn't mean you shouldn't do it. I'm a Viking, okay? I got hell when I was a kid because I was artsy, but I played football, baseball, basketball. So for you to transition from that intensity that you worked your rear end off, and probably you're a very talented guy, to go into art is, you know, it goes back to what do you want to leave? What's the perception that you want to leave on Earth? That is an incredible story, by the way. And I haven't met you yet, and I will after this. But that's something that I see in you, and I see the passion. Even though you're not a very outspoken guy, you still speak without words. And that's great. So, hats off to you.
Thank you.
Amazing, right? All righty. These are our panelists for today. We are out of time. But if you guys want to say hello, go watch their films, of course. Feel free to come over here and say hi.